Lisa,
Yes, baby girl.
when I grow up, I want to be a woman to society.
Then so shall you be.
Hey y'all, this is Lisa Landry. Welcome back to A Menace to Society. This is part 2 of my chat with Dr. Heidi Stieglitz Ham. Dr. Ham is an internationally renowned autism specialist, and she's founded her own center for autistic adults called Spectrum Fusion in Houston, Texas. Thanks for joining us again. I want to talk to you about Harvey. You mentioned him a few moments ago, and I know he was featured in a Houston Chronicle article just a few days back.
My other passion is community. Not just saying, oh, we need a place for people to live, let's just have them live somewhere. Not like that, but being able to say, listen, we need to have people coming together, adults on the spectrum living together with other individuals. And as I said, so many people are lonely. So many people are disconnected. They have gifts and talents that they want to share. So we think about veterans. We know that they have a history of being depressed and high rates of suicide. So do adults with autism, 5-fold increase.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I mean, I know 22 a day for the veterans, but I didn't know that depression and suicide were overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's really a major issue. And so now we have seniors. So I think in the Netherlands, they said, okay, we have this senior home or, long-term care, and we are going to have university students live here for free if they want to. And it has been such an amazing experience because, the students learn from the seniors and the seniors love all the energy,
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I envision for adults on the spectrum. So I received a call from somebody named Glenn, and he said, I've called all the organizations and nobody can help us. And the Texas Autism Society said that you can. So can you come out here? Okay. So they live, it's really an amazing story because they live in this, they call it the Point, but I guess it was sort of like a roughneck country club for old drillers who used to come through. Right. Uh-huh. So it's just really rough, really living on the land, really. And there's just open air. There's not a proper bathroom or anything. And so I went out there. Glenn said, well, I came back to the Point. That's what they call it, to help my friend Dan. Well, Dan passed away. He said, but before Dan passed away, I promised him I would look after his dogs, I would look after Harvey, and I would look after the property. And he said, but I don't know how to help Harvey. He said, I think he might have autism. He's never been diagnosed. What do you think? And so now this man is 63 years old, very intelligent, and he had spent a lot of time working on a rig, the drilling field. Mm-hmm. So we went out to meet Harvey, and he is very detailed. So when he speaks, it's very difficult to have a conversation. He'll say, oh, well, I went to San Angelo. Do you know where San Angelo is? Well, this was back in 1973 when we were having the drilling. And this was on the rig. And this was, and he'll just kind of go down more into the drilling. But he also collects things. He has specific interests like in drilling, but also in health and nutrition. But here we have Glenn, a veteran, who's all very organized. And then we have Harvey, who likes to collect things and maybe a bit of a hoarder. And so Glenn was saying, I don't know how to help. Well, then through this whole thing, Harvey left because sometimes he will go and spend time with homeless people. Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is that people over the course of his life have taken advantage of Harvey. And we see this with people on the spectrum. They are very authentic, very trusting. So sometimes they fall prey to predatory behavior and predators and bullies.
Yeah, there's a lot of predators out there.
Yes, and so over the years, people would say, oh, yeah, Harvey, here, do this work. Here, I'll pay you in tacos and beer or whatever. So even though Glenn was trying to help him, Glenn didn't really fully understand about autism. So then over the course of the last, I would say, couple months, we've been working closely together. And that article came out, and it was a beautiful article. I think that Suzanne did a wonderful job bringing everything together. But what we're trying to do is bring Spectrum Fusion together with Harvey and Glenn. And so we even had a day of community. We had Can I Cook It out there with Glenn and Charles, who's former FBI, who used to go to the Point. So it was just a lovely day of community and having Matthew learn how to they have this barbecue with all these, kind of rough and tumble. Glenn's a little rough and tumble. But it was so beautiful. So now we have located Harvey, and we're trying to find help, not only for Harvey and Glenn, but, to maybe get another trailer out there. They have 5 dogs. They need help. Glenn is actually going into the hospital, and he has been putting off his hospitalization because he needs to look after the dogs and look after Harvey. And so we want to be able to be there as a support. We are looking to put together a team, really. And this is in Old Town Spring, so maybe 45 minutes to an hour north of where I'm located, and to really be able to help them. And I have been in touch with somebody in the drilling industry, and my husband's in the oil industry, so I have videos of Harvey explaining his experience in drilling, and my husband said, yep, he's 100% accurate. He absolutely knows what he's talking about. Now we're trying to see, maybe we can get him a job on a rig. Maybe we can get him back in his area of interest, but with support.
That would make a big difference.
Yes.
I like the way you bridge people together. You connect with your Reactor Room, with your Rice University peers, with your clients. You kind of see things 2 steps out, it seems like. Like, well, you might be good with this person over here. Let's make it happen.
Well, I was actually telling somebody yesterday, this is my favorite thing, to bring people together, unrelated groups together, and create something different. There's lots of research, actually. So if you put all MDs together in a room and all engineers together, and you say, okay, let's solve this problem, they're sort of influenced by their peers, and they follow the norms.
Right, and they
but
also
if you mix them up.
They
right?
usually defer
Yes.
to the oldest person in the room too. I've realized they will even if that person
Yes.
is wrong and that person is using debunked scientific theory and
Yes.
still regurgitating crap that was valid 20 years before that moment.
1973. Yes, exactly.
The young people in the room, and they might be in their 40s and 50s. So we're not talking somebody newly out of school who just graduated from a grad program. We're talking actual people who've worked in a field for a few decades themselves will still cede power and intellect and reasoning to the oldest person in the room of that industry.
And that is exactly right. They've done studies to say, what if we have an MD together with an engineer, together with an entrepreneur, together with a business person? Okay, now let's provide a problem. And they come up with amazing solutions. And that's really what this is all about. Let's bring people together. Let's think of something different using lateral thinking. So that's the other thing. Adults on the spectrum, often I ask them, because they have amazing ideas. Over the years, people would say, oh, no, you can't do that. Why would you say that? That's not a good idea. There's a young man that's here right now, for example, he came over and he had this bag, I called it his bag of tricks, but all kinds of little drawings and little gadgets and gizmos. So I said, well, what do you have here? And so he said, well, this is what I saw this one time at Buc-ee's, and I thought about this, and then I researched this, and I said, well, I think this could be an invention. This one step led to another, and I just attended Maker's Fair, and then, I found somebody who has a 3D printing company. He's been volunteering. Now we have a prototype, and then we were stuck on getting just this one working part right to have a functional prototype. And now I think by the end of the month, we're going to have a functional prototype. And then we'll be able to say, okay, we're going to white label it, or we're going to be able to sell the idea or something, but he's going to have an invention.
Oh, I love that, Heidi.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
These ideas are valid. They're great. And so many times people would say, right away, oh, well, how are you going to do that? Do you have the money to do that? Well, have you thought about this? Well, I have concerns about this. Well, I have a lot of concerns about that. So next thing you know, an idea that they're excited about, well, there you go. Can't do it.
Isn't that horrible when humans do that to each other? I really don't like that, especially when older people do it to younger people. It just galls me.
Yes.
I hate naysayers. I hate people who not hate, that's a strong word.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but
I feel the same though. I want them to shine. The Reactor Room is for them, and they shine there. And you should have seen this young man who said, oh, I don't think that I'm going to present my idea. I said, well, why don't you just speak, and then when you want to leave, you can. Next thing I know, he stayed the entire time because he really loves talking about what he's inventing.
That's great. You had bonus community.
Yes,
That's the goal.
right.
That's freaking awesome, Heidi. I love your blog too. And your blog can be found on spectrumfusion.org, Dr. Heidi Stieglitz Ham. And your blog is wonderful because you're coming from this medical, clinical, international background, and your articles are very accessible to non-scientific folks like me. Like I can read it and I get it. You wrote that social rejection is as real and hurts as much as physical pain. But we've all grown up hearing sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So what's true, Dr. Heidi? Which one?
Words will hurt, and social rejection is excruciatingly painful. It's painful on every level, and it hurts as much as physical pain. I love that research. I think that was this was at UCLA, where they looked at cyberball, a game that you would play, but they used avatars. So these individuals thought that they were playing with other people, and then one person was cut out. And they could see that the area in the dorsal and anterior cingulate cortex was activated. And the more that it was activated, so the greater activation correlated to higher levels of experiencing, like how they perceived the rejection. So that showed they really felt rejected, and their activation scores were much higher. And then they even took that to the next experiment with the people who had the greater activation. And then they said, okay, here are disapproving glances. And they could see that those individuals were more sensitive to glances that they perceived to be maybe disapproving. This shows that the more we are rejected, the more that people experience emotional abuse, the more that they're socially isolated, the greater the pain. So the greater the risk, really, of getting out there. Because if you are rejected again, it's going to feel really painful. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, they retreat to their safe haven. And so it's not that they want to be alone, but they are protecting themselves from further pain, and also that's their place of emotional safety.
Brutal.
Yes.
What would you tell someone listening who happens to be the parent of an autistic child, maybe a younger child, or maybe somebody who's in middle school and now they're thinking maybe I should get my daughter tested? What would you tell that person who's listening and might be thinking, well, if my kid has this diagnosis, they're going to be sad and overwhelmed and lonely?
So you're saying somebody who does have an autism diagnosis or somebody who doesn't?
Maybe both, actually, is what I'm saying. Because now that you've shared this new knowledge or newer knowledge about younger girls or younger women being diagnosed, and we're recognizing that maybe we've been missing an opportunity to diagnose females all this time. Maybe there's somebody listening who's now thinking, perhaps my kid's going to have this loneliness problem because she's autistic and just not diagnosed yet.
Well, okay, so if somebody is feeling like, okay, I'm worried about my child, but I think the best thing that we can do is to really validate them. I think what happens so many times, parents are fearful. They're fearful that their children will not be independent, and they want them to do things like everybody else, or they want them to follow, like your older brother was this, we want you to do this too. If they can't do that, then they're thinking, well, we don't really know what can be done. I'm working with people who have brothers and sisters who are in the medical field. They are doctors. Their parents are doctors as well. But that doesn't mean that this person doesn't have something to offer, but it will look different. And so I think, first of all, to be able to say, we value and appreciate you for who you are. And then I think being able to have that freedom to explore and be themselves. For example, sometimes people will come into Spectrum Fusion even, and they are a little bit shy to share like an idea. Mm-hmm. But once they do, if they know that they're in an environment and they can share something what they want to do, and their parents will say, okay, that's amazing, let's try it. I think that is a wonderful start. Sometimes parents tell me, my child doesn't know what they want. They have no idea. So actually, the young man that I was telling you about, Nicholas, his dad was saying he doesn't have any interest. I said, he does. He does. But, yeah. I said, he's in basketball. He's this, he's that. And now his dad said, well, you wouldn't believe it. He's reading again. He's doing, because I think also when individuals, when they are in settings where it's very cognitively demanding, because he was in college, they may have cognitive fatigue. They may shut down. Mm-hmm. We need a reactor room in every community. That is the answer. Because if you have somebody and they want to share what their idea is, and you make this tailor-made panel for them, and they have the support of the community, they have these connections, they can create new opportunities, you would not believe how this can turn somebody's life around. This young man that came through, Nicholas, the one that I did see 16 years ago, he was so absolutely just thrilled that we had people in the sports industry connected to him. He could see hope. We're learning about the science of hope. And so if people have hope, it's not just a nice thing to say, like, oh, we're giving hope, because we want to give more than hope, right? But hope, number one, they have to have an idea of something they want to do. But number two, they need to have the pathway or the connections to actually achieve that. And then research in China last year, researchers found an area of the brain that they correlated with the high trait of hope. And this area is behind, kind of in the orbital frontal cortex. They found that individuals who had high traits of hope had lower anxiety and better problem solving. So in essence, when you give somebody hope, you are changing their outcomes. They're changing their lives because you're providing connections, a pathway for them to achieve this goal, which then increases problem solving and decreases anxiety and increases problem and their quality of life over the course of their lifetime. So there's something meaningful about saying we're giving hope.
I'm blown away by you, Dr. Heidi Ham. I think you're Anne Sullivan reincarnated. You're like
it's not easy going against the tide, I can tell you that. And I think the more people we have who understand our mission will understand that this is something that everybody can do. We can bring reactor rooms to different cities, and we can share connections. Then we can share outcomes. I mean, that it's about sharing, not about keeping everything private and, oh, we can't share this idea. No, we're the opposite. We want to share. Oh, you had success with that. Can you help this other individual as well? Oh, you're in Washington State? Okay, we know somebody there. Let's come together, like I said, as a country, and then as a world. The world is a lot smaller now. We can come together, and this is what it's going to take to make significant impact and meaningful change on a global level for individuals with autism and their families.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, how hard would it be conceivably for somebody, because you have Rice University, you have an international resume, you are obviously a very loving, insightful, tapped-in human being who is connected to these clients, these human beings. How hard would it be for somebody in, say, Kansas City to start a reactor room and just put people together who can help autistic adults?
Yes, and that's the other thing. So it can be done. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm writing up all of the procedures. How do you know who's right, at the right time? Like they're ready for the reactor room. How do you know who's a safe person to put on the panel? How do you know who to connect them to? Because we have to actually make sure we vet all these individuals. We already have predators anyway. We have to make sure, how do we do that? How do we organize it? How do we have follow-up? What are the activation plans? How do we make this happen? So right now we've only had 3, of these reactor rooms for a pilot study and to show proof of concept. But we're doing it, and I know that this can be done, and we can set up workshops and help other cities, other communities run these reactor rooms. It can be done. I believe it. Somebody might say, oh, well, they're not making money. Is that success? Or they're to be able to show how far they've come behind the scenes. And we're so proud of each and every one of them. We really are.
And people can check you out at spectrumfusion.org.
Yes.
And that's how to connect with you, find out more, read your blog, read some of the stories of your clients in Europe and their families. And I haven't met you, lady, but I love you. I think you're fantastic.
I think we're going to meet in person. I'm really looking forward to it.
I would really like that very, very much.
And I love female comedians.
Ah, thank you. Thank you.
So it's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to it.
We love fun people in our audiences like you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being awesome, and thank you for, I know, like you said, it's a bit trite, it's a bit cliche, but thanks for thinking out the box, because when you're in a box, all you are is boxed in.
That's a good point. And we will help people. Together, we can change the world. Together, we can make the world a better place for adults on the autism spectrum. And like you said, we can let them shine. I think that's a good way to say it. Let them shine.
Thanks again, Dr. Heidi Ham. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for talking about it and sharing it with me and my listeners. And thanks, y'all, for listening. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to lisalandry.com, subscribe. You'll know when each podcast drops. Every Woman is Wednesday. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll also get a free audio download of my stand-up comedy. Ari Bear, we need to go to Texas. You know we got cousins down there, son. We rednecks, we got cousins in every state pretty much. And we need to get some of them Texas vittles. You know, it's real good down-home American food. Barbecue, potato salad, tacos.